Here we are again. Um, this is welcome, first of all. It's welcome to the newcomers, and also welcome back if you joined in last night. And by the way, if you've missed out on the last one, or the first one rather, of last night, underneath this post you can see the link back to the first one we did last night on YouTube. So at your own leisure, you can have a look if you want to, because that's where I premiered the first track of the new album. Because after all, that's what we're doing here. I'm presenting to you tracks from my new album, Maison Melody, from my own house. Of course, due to the circumstances in the current situation, but also appropriate because this is also the very spot where I composed those pieces. So it's called Maison Melody for a reason, because it's the melodies made in this house. So welcome to the night of melody, the second night of melody. Now, last night I got a request to, to talk less and to play more music, which I think is very understandable, because I was a bit, I was going on a bit last night. That was the first off, so I'll be more efficient and to the point if you care. So what I decided to do is to, instead of playing you one new track of the album, I'll play you two. And I'll tell a little about the background of those respective tracks. And another reason for doing it this way tonight is because the very first one I'm going to do, so the second track on the album, is a bit shortish. It's like 2 minutes something. So I guess there's a bit more time for a third piece, the third track on the album being the second one tonight. Afterwards we can do a bit of a talk. You can put in your questions, can put them forward, and allow me now to tell you how the very second track on the album, how it got started, because it's a bit of a story. So the melody isn't new at all. It got, it was conceived, it was composed by myself almost 20 years ago. So 20 years ago, I did my media production assignment work. When I did that, I was suddenly requested to make a theme tune for an educational program about memory loss for Dutch television, educational television, memory loss. And without wanting to become too technical, I thought, what is happening in the brain when you lose your memory? You have certain thoughts that are conflicting or are missing. And I thought, how about if I translate that into musical notes as a sequence? So this is what I started doing, and this is how it sounded all those years ago. This was me trying to translate what memory loss is in music. And I started off with the terrible devil's chord. You see, this here is the devil's chord. That is trouble. You can hear that, right? It's trouble. So in musical terms, that's called the devil's chord. But the devil's chord I use symbolically for this next track, because I thought when the day comes that you are being diagnosed with memory loss, is a terrible day. And so the opening of the very song has to be that diagnosis. And I started working on it, and this is how the sketching went. So it opens with that chord, and then I go into the melodical theme. Here you go. So that was the TV theme for Memory Loss. But then when I started this album a year ago, I thought that's a very, very nice theme because it's attractive to elaborate upon. So I decided to work on it with my improved skills over the last 10 years, musical skills that is, and tried to see if I could make up a new fuller extended composition with a fuller arrangement for it. And I guess we can play that to you right now. The working title on my computer for the song was Mr. Memory. Little did I know that in the years to come, my father would suffer from memory loss. So in a way, this is a dedication, has become a dedication to him. So to my late father. So let me play you the track now as the finished result is on the actual album, okay? Right, so that's the second track on the new album. I also thought, because of the first session I had last night, that as a few questions were to deal with the fact that people would like to be known if there'd be any vinyl release or CD release of the new album, if that would be the case. So what I answered was, with enough demand, we'll press it up for you. So what we can offer you now is to, if you'd really like a CD instead of streaming from your computer, or a vinyl album version in that format, drop us a note. You can do that right now over here. I'll be seeing that after the show. And we can take notes, and if there's enough interest for that, we can get that realized. So for us, that's a good thing to know, if there'd be any people interested in that. I know my aunt, she needs a CD, because otherwise, she'll be never able to hear this type of music coming from me today. So there are still people wanting the physical product, and I had a couple of questions about that. So when you want it, let me know, okay? Right, then we move on to the third track on the album, and the album has 10 tracks. Now, initially I thought, I'll do a track a day, but when they're so short, and people want to hear more music than my talking, which is no problem. I mean, I'm happy with that. Then perhaps we should listen to 2 tracks a day. And that means this working week we'll be able to have heard the whole album. So on we go with the third song on the album, provisionally titled MM3. Um, Now, the third one was something where I started laughing at myself. I don't know if you know that situation yourself, the people now watching, that you do something where you suddenly feel almost embarrassed, like sort of, is that me? And that happened to me with with the intro. See, I start to laugh already. And I'll play it to you short right now, and I'll explain to you right after why I started to laugh. Okay? Here we go. So that was the intro for the third one. And when I played that à l'improviste, improvising away, I suddenly thought that's really kitschy. That's really it's soppy. It's I would say it's almost over the line. It crosses a line there in terms of good taste. But I felt embarrassed at first, but then I started improvising along with the song, and the stuff that came after it in my own imagination actually got so worthwhile, I thought, that I'd rather continue with the composition. And now when I hear it back, what happens when you compose, you hear it, you work on it, you hear it, then you produce it, and then you listen back for investigation and evaluation if it's turned out all right with the performance with the other musicians. And then I suddenly realized, yeah, it's actually worth our while, mine at least, because what comes after the intro um, makes the intro very, very reasonable, so to speak. So let's have a listen to the third one, how it turned out, okay? So, ha ha ha, a little. So I hope you like that one. I thought it was really, really evolving so nicely that I wanted to include it on the album. And even after playing it a couple of times back, you start to hear more into it than the very first time. And I quite like the tongue-in-cheek idea of a kitschy intro developing in some more inner voice-oriented statement further on in the composition. It's the kind of thing I like, to dabble with all kinds of influences. So, one question that I forgot to answer last night with the first session was by a person called Bert-Jan, and he asked me, why classical music all of a sudden? Well, the answer to that is that I get bored easily. So, the reason why I'm probably haven't become a virtuoso musician on any instrument, violin or guitar or the piano or bass or whatever, is because I get bored with the monotony of the instrument. It's just not for me. I like one Tuesday to be green and Wednesday to be red, etc. And so also with genres. Why are people sticking with genres? Is that because they convinced that they should? And if they do, is that a commercial decision? Because one time in London I was told by an music industry person, he said, "What, you're changing genre again? That's commercial suicide." To which I answered, yeah, but it's my artistic survival to do it. Because I want to challenge on myself, even, at an older age. Yeah, you've heard right. Then I still like to challenge myself. After this one, be something different, probably jazz or something else. The reason is that I want to keep myself alive and on point, and the genre-defying quality of Now My Path is actually what I think is the only right way to do. You can only think of the greats who've done that before me. So I can't personally imagine to do 10, 20 albums with roughly the same musical idiom you use as a way of expression. So that has been said. All the questions you might want to ask me today, I'll be able to answer tomorrow. And I'll tell you why. Because there's a technical delay. I can't see them soon enough for me to answer right on the spot. So I promise to be a bit more compact today. I've played you 2 songs. You can listen to the very first one back via YouTube. You can see the link right under this one on the Stefan Emmer official page. I'll be back again tomorrow, 7:15, and I hope to see you there again. Thanks for coming. I appreciate that. And if you want the vinyl or the CD version, also post your request and we can see as soon as what we can do. So I always, only the first time was yesterday, but I'd like to leave you for this session with a quote, and it's a quote about art, and I'll read it out for you. Painting, writing, and composing are solitary arts. And that's been said by Conrad Hall. He was a very well-established cinematographer. For many, many art house movies, he did camera work. And he's right. Painting, writing, and composing are solitary arts. You do that on your own. It's very individual. And then when you are on your own doing that, who is your partner in crime, your creative partner in crime? Your environment, which is the house. So from this house of melody, I'll say good night to you for now. And thanks for watching again. I hope to see you tomorrow. All right, take care now.